deeper. But today we're going to get reports from legal services, as far as like what y'all's roles and responsibilities are as board members. We're going to get reports from the various DSB sections and staff to go over, kind of some of the pertinent matters that we've been facing here recently. But we're gonna, in light of, we don't have any elected officers, right? So all of you are new. So normally I would have someone sitting up here next to me to kind of run the board meeting. And I would just kind of be an accessory to that. But since we don't have any elected officials, I'm going to kind of run this instance of the meeting. And then next meeting in June, the chairperson will then rightfully accept those roles and responsibilities. So the first thing that we need to do is really call the roll. So I'm going to hand it over to Miss Brandy Bryant. She's our administrative assistant. So you guys are going to get to know her. You're going to get a lot of communication, just as you already have gotten some communication from her. But a lot of the communication back and forth to the board will be through Miss Brandy, and she is going to go ahead and call our roll. So if you're in the room here, just signify by saying here. If you're online, make sure that you unmute yourself and respond with your name and here as well. All right, Brandy.
Good morning, everyone. Molly Hernandez.
Present. This is Molly.
Judy Rigby.
Here.
Ernest Huff.
Here.
Roy DePriest.
Here.
Tiffany Moore.
Here.
Courtney Phelps. Kara Aaron. Eric Yarberry. Larry Wayland.
Here, this is Larry.
And Terry Sheeler. We have a forum.
Yes, we do. Yes, thank you all for being here today. So really the next item on our agenda is Mr. Matt Pish with the Secretary of State's office is going to come up here and swear in. I know some of you have already submitted the documents and such, but he's been kind enough to come here and kind of fulfill this for us. So we'll have a little bit, for those that have submitted your documents, I'll have a little bit of a ceremonial picture and such of the swearing in. And then for those that haven't filled those out in full, we'll make sure to get that done and filed for you all today.
Okay.
Matt?
Roy, do you want to be first?
Sure.
Me up here and we'll do this where you remain can get your, you stand on my left. This is good enough. Come up a little closer. A little closer. There you go. That's good.
We say Roy DePriest.
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm going to repeat these words and you're going to follow them after me. I'll do them in short little bits.
Okay.
So just repeat after me.
Okay.
And you get to be next. Okay.
I see.
So, all right. Here you go. And let me hold that with my left hand so I can still read what we're doing. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I, Roy DePriest,
I, Roy DePriest,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties
the duties
of the office
of the office
of the Division of Services for the Blind,
of the Division of Services for the Blind,
upon which I am now about to enter.
upon which I am now about to enter.
Congratulations, Mr. DePriest, you are now a certified board member.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hold up their sheet there.
Oh, yes, he wants a picture with your chief. So that makes it official. Here we go.
There we go. Good. So that. Good.
Excuse me, could we face this way a little so that folks can see you online?
Oh, you want to try taking a picture from that way and we'll get it over here? Let's try that. Oops, I'm in the wrong way. Let's go from your left.
Come up a little, just a little more. Come forward a little more. Yeah, inch away under below.
Yeah, looking right here.
Oh, we're on a great big TV screen. Okay, what
All right,
works
Mr.
easiest for you? Want me to come to you?
Stand up here?
Can I just step behind and do it there? Or-
I can do that. Yeah.
You stay right where you're at and
Okay.
we'll make this work.
All right.
Just 1 second. I'm gonna come around beside you. Right over here behind you. There's a Bible right in front of you. There. And I'm gonna, you saw what we just did, we'll do it again. Go slow. Okay. Ready?
Yes.
I, Judy Ricci,
I, Judy Ricky,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Arkansas,
of the State of Arkansas,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
of Division of Services for the Blind,
of Division of Services for the Blind,
upon which I am now about to enter.
upon which I am now about to enter.
Congratulations. You did well. You're sworn in. I'll shake your hand here for the picture. And we're gonna hold this up so we can get a picture.
Yeah.
I'll put that in your back hand.
Okay.
You and I will shake hands and do that. There we go. There we go. Good. That. Good. Got it. And I assume all your other board members are sworn in,
Yeah, do you wanna?
past life.
I've already got it, so.
Okay. Good.
You've already been sworn in. Okay, very good. Anybody have anything else? They will mail both of you a copy of this.
Okay.
Great.
Your staff offered to make a copy, but if it's okay that we just mail them.
That's fine.
That's fine. Yes, I
You are official now, so.
All right.
We need a photo of him, or has he already got that?
I think he's already, when were you sworn in?
Let's see, it was, April the 29th. And,
Did you come to my office to do
I
that?
went to state district judge there and.
Okay, so you got a district judge, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, we're out of your hair. Thank you for letting us interrupt your
No,
meeting.
appreciate it very
And
much.
tell Mr. McDonald I need to come see him.
I sure will.
I have messages from you, from a family.
So speaking of Secretary McDonald, he is joined us Zoom. Secretary McDonald, would you like to address the board?
Yes, thank you, Nathan. Well, first of all, congratulations to all the board members. I want to thank you for all raising your hand and volunteering for this very important role. You know, this is a very exciting time. This is actually the first time I've been invited to a board meeting of DSB, so we're very excited. Nathan, thank you for also being willing to step up. You've done a great job, and as interim director here in the near term, I know we've got lots of work to do in front of us, but as a commitment to the board, we want to make sure that we are fully transparent and we let the board know exactly what we know. And you all can help us get better. And that's ultimately our goal, is providing more and better services to the visually disabled here in the state of Arkansas. So that's all I wanted to say. But very excited that this board meeting is happening, and we've got new board members to get us off on the right foot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary McDonald, and congratulations to the new board members as well. Those that were sworn in before and those that just got sworn in. We do really appreciate your willingness to serve in this capacity, and you guys are going to be really vital in not only the direction of DSB moving forward, but just making sure that our policies and procedures are where you all want them to be. Keeping us accountable is one of the primary responsibilities, and we're really excited to be working with you all. So now that we have a sworn in board and you guys are official, we can have our first voting item, okay? And that is the approval of today's agenda. So board members, I know that you received an agenda just slightly in advance. Is there any additions or corrections that you guys would like to see to today's agenda as it was presented to you all?
Is there gonna be a time for the board to ask a question at all, or,
Sure,
okay,
absolutely.
when would that be a good time to do that?
What kind of question? I mean, we can ask, you can ask question whenever you want.
Okay,
If you want to ask that now, you can. If you want to ask it, maybe after one of the reports.
after the leadership reports.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so anyone online have any changes that they wish to have to the agenda?
No, not at this time.
All right, so hearing no changes, I would like to ask for a motion that the agenda be approved as presented.
This is Molly Hernandez. I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Roy seconds that. All right, so I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the motion carries. The agenda is approved. So the next item on the agenda is actually to get the responsibilities of the board from our Chief of Legal Services, Mr. David McCoy, who just so happened to walk into the room. David, are you ready to give your?
Talk just for a minute. Where do you want me to be?
You can be wherever you want.
I just want to be heard, that's all.
Yeah. All right. So, Mr. David, would you go ahead?
Yeah, just very briefly, I'm David McCoy. I'm the general counsel for, I guess for DSB and for all of Arkansas Workforce Connections, as we're reforming everything and creating a new agency and a new structure. We'll be going through all that through the legislation, and we'll probably have some legislation for y'all to review and have input on. So that'll be coming up. I'm your attorney that's on staff here. Statutorily, you have a right to request an attorney from the Attorney General's office. And I think it's Michael Lewis, and he may be online, but that's also an option for the board. I feel I have to tell you that. I want to touch a couple of things. If you've not been a part of a state board before, you are under Freedom of Information Act requirements, which may ask you to produce documents that would be public documents that aren't, and there's a number of exemptions, and we can run that through our office. There are requirements for your meetings. So notice requirements and for different types of meetings. And that Nathan will primarily handle that for you. And then if you're going to have a virtual meeting or you're going to allow virtual access, that can be handled in the Commerce Communications Department, which that's what they've done today. And so we're kind of set up. We do this for all our boards within Commerce. So we'll be able to help with that. As members, the Freedom of Information Act will have, there are certain requirements for your public meetings. What is a public meeting? Well, under the law, if two members get together at any time and discuss business, board business, that can be considered a public meeting. So if you're going to discuss any business, it should be in an open meeting out in front of everyone. So there are some requirements, and I'm going to provide these documents for you. I didn't have time to put them in an accessible format, so I'm going to get those for you so that everyone can read these for themselves. And if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to me. We are going part of a VR agency's actions are we have to give our clients an opportunity for due process if they complain about a service that they received or were denied. And as part of that there's a whole lengthy process they would go through to have a review of that determination. And it can ultimately end up in a mediation or a impartial hearing before a hearing officer for a decision on whether that was required or not. And so we're updating those rules right now to streamline this process. One thing that I'm going to bring to your June meeting is we need the board to approve a list of mediators and impartial hearing officers that we can then select from if we have to have a hearing or a mediation. My office is going to be finding attorneys and other hearing officers who are interested in this and that are knowledgeable of VR practices and law. So I'll be bringing that to you. And I think that's just a general overview. I'll provide you some other information later on through Nathan. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. David.mccoy@arkansas.gov is the easiest way. So
Thank you.
that's all I got. Thank you.
Anybody in the room or online have any questions for David?
I got a question. So with the Freedom of Information request, do they have access to your personal phone? Do you need to have a phone specifically dedicated to this? Can you give a little information about that?
That could be a question. If you're discussing, if it comes out that you're discussing board business with another one outside of a meeting, someone could FOIA that. We call it FOIA. Ask a request for any text on your phone. Whether we can obtain that reasonably or not, I mean, that can happen to a state employee. So we're just conscious of what we use our personal phones for that, because it could be, not in all cases, but it could be.
Second question, follow up. What about your email? Should you have a dedicated email for this, or how does it work for board members?
It'd be the same. Do they have dedicated emails for this?
No, not traditionally, but if you want to dedicate an email, like with regards to the FOIA request, like that would totally be understandable. Now, not oftentimes are we going to discuss things that would be really pertinent to FOIA through email. Most of those things are going to be discussed, in board meetings themselves.
What we would have to produce in FOIA public records that are maintained by the agency or the board, or are required to be maintained by the board, or otherwise maintained. So, so if you don't keep the records, I'm not saying erase stuff, but if you don't keep records and we're not required to keep records, then that's some of the exemptions that we could say is we just don't have those records or we don't keep those records.
Well,
but that we have to look at each FOIA request individually.
And some of the stuff that, like, let's say they did FOIA something that was sent to the board, most of that would be recorded in a state employee's email address anyway.
Right. So, but but basically I would tell you on this, everything would have to be looked on a case-by-case basis. I would tell you, be careful what you do in writing. It's just, not to do anything nefarious. I'm just saying, but be careful because if you are one thing that the public meeting law really addresses is what they call polling. So if you got a big vote, board's having a big vote, and you start contacting the other board members, hey, how are you going to vote on this outside of the meeting? That's not permissible. Now, this board, there could be some, how pertinent that is to any action this board takes, but you can see where if you were talking about a licensing board and stuff like that, they could really get tricky. One thing about virtual meetings I'll bring up, because we're in one, it is a requirement that if you have virtual access, which we provide that board members, the public needs to be able to know who is speaking and who is, and how each member votes. And so they just got to be able to identify you on the if they're watching from home or on a virtual manner. They've got to be able to identify who you are, and then when you go for a vote, if they got to be able to see who voted for this or that. So I don't know if you want to develop little nameplates or something for everyone that might help that too. We do that with some other boards.
So I do it for the ARS SRC.
Yeah, so we can work on some of that on our end to help alleviate that.
Nathan, hi, Michael Lewis from the Attorney General's office here. I was just able to log on. My link wasn't working, but I got it working now. Just wanted to introduce myself. As I said, Michael Lewis with the Attorney General's office. Pursuant to statute, the Attorney General's office provides legal services to this board. It's my understanding we have a lot of new board members, so I wanted to make sure I introduce myself and let y'all know what our role is. As y'all may have questions as we're going through this, thought it'd be good for y'all to know us. Aaron Lowry is normally y'all, however, he was unable to attend, but I did want to log on and introduce myself and our office. Kind of piggybacking on a number of things Mr. McCoy just said. There is case law regarding the use of personal accounts subject to FOIA, and they can absolutely be subject to FOIA. So that is something that y'all should all watch out for and avoid using, talking about board business in really any digital format. All that business should be saved for the meeting so the general public can know exactly what's going on. The only thing that really should be sent through an email is an agenda and notifying you when the meeting actually is if it's not already voted on. So to kind of piggyback on him and reinforce that point, be very cautious and avoid that at all costs, because they are subject to FOIA, and just because it's on your personal Gmail, your personal phone, doesn't mean that it will not have to be turned over in a FOIA request. But just wanted to introduce myself, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, David, for that. Really appreciate it. So you guys are a little bit more knowledgeable, and one of the things that we're planning on sending you is the NCSRC, which is the National Coalition of Rehabilitation Councils, actually puts out a guidebook. It's rather lengthy. It's a 50 to 60 page guidebook on just roles, responsibilities, how do you interact with, your vocational rehab entity? How do you interact with legislators? How do you interact with agency staff? Kind of things. And we'll make sure that we get you all that document. So in our June meeting, if you have any questions regarding that, or we can provide some additional clarity, I would love to be able to answer those questions at that time. But you guys can see you definitely are going to play a vital role in how the vocational rehab agency, so for your instance, it would be DSB, functions on a daily basis. You're going to help guide us with our comprehensive statewide needs assessment. So I know that's not something that we've spoke about yet, but it is something in the very near future that we're going to have to start kind of guiding and looking forward towards. And what that really does is identify how is DSB doing in reality with our constituents across the state of Arkansas. What kind of things do we need to look at improving? Is there some blind spots that maybe we're not providing services in certain areas? And you guys are going to help us look at those things and kind of guide us in the implementation. You're also going to help us with policy implementation. You're going to help us evaluate our performance at large, and then make recommendations to help us improve the agency as a whole. So now that you're somewhat familiar with your roles and responsibilities, we need to elect some officers, because I need someone up here sitting with me instead of me running the meeting. You guys are going to get tired of hearing from me real quick. So we need to elect a chairman and a vice chairman. So just kind of briefly, the chairperson is responsible for convening and presiding at all of the council and executive committee meetings. The chairperson also serves as a liaison to other agencies or entities and performs as the board's spokesperson in partnership with myself. Okay, so whenever you're out in the community at different events, you're basically going to be acting as the board spokesperson. You can also help appoint members to the SRC committees, and you're going to oversee and coordinate the work of those committee teams, and consult with myself and other staff members on meeting agendas, different obligations of the board, to make sure that we don't have any blind spots, that nothing falls through the cracks. So with that, I would like to open up nominations for a chairman of the board. Anybody has any nominations? And I know you guys are new, but do know that if you nominate yourself to be chairman, you're not going to be alone, right? Myself, our staff are going to be there to really help guide you through that. But we definitely do need a chairman, because right now we do not have one.
Nathan, maybe we should introduce ourselves or.
Oh, that is a great idea. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Molly. I think that was Molly. Was that?
It
Molly?
was.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, if we would maybe go around the room, maybe start with Ernie, and then we'll do Judy and Roy, and then we'll get the online. If you would just introduce yourself, maybe a little bit about your background, why are you interested on serving on the board, those kind of things.
I'll start first. My name is Dr. Ernie Huff. I'm retired from the Arkansas Department of Education, almost 28 years working there. I worked in Alaska in a rural school district for 5 years, and now the last 3 years I've been working at UACCM in Morrilton as a computer and business instructor. And I've been in state government, worked in state government pretty much my whole career. When I was in Alaska, I was in a rural Yupik Eskimo village, about 700 people on the Yukon River, and I presented to the board many times there for us, because I was an HR director. So I've worked in curriculum assessment, IT, worked for a school district in HR. So the reason I'm here is because my daughter Sadie right here. Sadie was born 20 years ago. We were actually living in Alaska, and she was actually born here in Little Rock, but I was thinking about making a lifelong career in Alaska, but the services for the blind in Alaska were not very good. Every 3 months, somebody would fly in on a Cessna type plane to evaluate Sadie, and we knew that wasn't going to work for her long term. So we moved back here when she's 3 months old. She started at the School for the Blind, and she went there all the way till last year when she graduated. But we've been dealing as parents with the issue of blindness and trying to get services and things like that for years. And when everything shut down, I decided that maybe it's time that I stepped up with the experience I have, the background I have, to try to help in this board position. So that's a little bit about me and Sadie.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dr. Huff. And Sadie, it's nice to have you here at the board meeting. Appreciate it. Miss Judy.
Okay, I'm Judy Rickey, and I was born blind, and I taught at the School for the Blind for 26 years. And I thought that maybe, since I am a blind person, that maybe I might have a piece of knowledge somewhere that might come in valuable. Anything else? But this is my first time to serve on on a board like this. Years ago, about 25 years ago, I was on the Governor's Commission for People with Disabilities, which is really a lot different from this one, I think.
Yeah.
So, but I decided that maybe, I would see what I could do, and if I could do anything to be of service to the blind people in this state. So that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Roy?
Hi, I'm Roy DePriest. And presently I'm a facilities director for the Arkansas School for the Deaf and Blind. And I was born with vision impairment. And so I'm an alum of the school, Arkansas School for the Blind. And I've worn many hats with my involvement with the blind and visually impaired community. I've served on the board for the Arkansas School for the Blind, Arkansas School for the Deaf. I've worked at the school as a house parent, and I've come full circle. I'm back at the school again. Love my job, love what I do. So I've been very blessed and fortunate to have that opportunity. And it's my hope that I can make a meaningful contribution to this board and this organization.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Appreciate that. All right, who online wants to go first?
Hi, I'm Tiffany Moore, and I guess I don't have any particular background with Arkansas School for the Blind. As a board member, I represent AER, which is a professional organization for people with licenses that work with blind and visually impaired persons. So for me personally, I'm a certified teacher for the blind and visually impaired and a certified orientation and mobility specialist. And I provided services in public schools, with the passion of instilling skills and, how to self-advocate, how to, navigate a sighted world and be as independent and be, as graceful as possible and within their environments. And so I did 19 years in public schools. I would say currently this is my first year to not be working in public schools. I have more caregiver role these days with a aging parent and a special needs brother, and then my 5-year-old son. So I'm doing a lot more caregiving these days, but so mine is more of a professional background, and it was a field I got recruited into and have loved, and that's my background.
Good. Molly, you're up.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Molly Hernandez. I'm also a person who is blind. I actually lost my sight in adulthood from a degenerative retinal condition. So I now have only light perception. But that led me to be a product of vocational rehabilitation. I was 10 years deep into a career in elementary education when my sight got to the point I could no longer continue in that profession. And I worked with the Division of Services for the Blind. I would not be here without their services. I'm now, by education, now I have a master's degree in counseling with an emphasis in rehabilitation. I hold the Certified Rehabilitation Counselor certification, and I work for Disability Rights Arkansas as an advocate. And primarily I work under the Client Assistance Program, which is the program that consumers of vocational rehabilitation turn to if they are having issues navigating services with either of our state VR agencies, either Arkansas Rehabilitation Services or the Division of Services for the Blind. So I'm excited to be a part of the board.
Molly. Well, I will say I'm very encouraged we have a lot of very qualified individuals here in the room and online to choose from. I think any one of you would make an amazing chairperson. So with that being said, let's reopen nominations for a chairman of the board. Does anyone want to serve in that capacity? We're going to have a chairperson, vice chairperson nomination after this.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Molly as the chairperson of this board.
Ollie, you have been nominated as chairperson for the board. Does anyone else want to make a nomination?
I was going to nominate Molly.
You were so duly nominated. All right. So if there is no one else that will be nominated, then we can go ahead and vote for.
Before we move to a vote, Nathan, do we still have legal counsel on the call to confirm that it would not be an issue? I don't think it would any further than my actual participation in the board. The fact that I do represent clients when there is a due process situation.
Yeah, and we actually did speak about this just a little bit beforehand. But David is still here in the room. David, do you want to weigh in on that a little bit?
Yeah, I was gonna, and there had, you know, and this has just come up in the last couple of days, particularly with Molly, and so you know, Cindy and I were gonna get back with you about, you know, how what might be considered a conflict if you're advocating, especially, you know, for, and that may be something we want to talk about offline, and how that may impact what you do at DRA regarding DSB.
Correct. I mean, I know I could recuse myself from votes regarding mediators, hearing officers, but I want to be very careful walking that line of not having a conflict, you know, between my role on the board and at work.
Right, and then the other issues, you know, your role at work, are you advocating, you know, these are would represent clients who are in this due process I spoke about. And it may be about whether they were ineligible, you know, we determined they were ineligible for services, or it could be that they incurred an expense that they feel the agency should pay as a service. And so in those regards, I you know, I think we come into a question, at least in appearance. I think you're a very fair person and all that. I think we come into a question of can you be advocating for the agency to provide a service the agency has determined it shouldn't or shouldn't pay. And that's where I see some of that conflict. If I'm trying to explain that kind of in a broad way, not to be specific to any issue. And that's where I would. That's some of the things Nathan and Megan and we started talking about how that may appear, at least appear, if and how that could play out if everything did go to a hearing or even went to court after that. So I don't know, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Maybe?
Michael Lewis from the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
You know, the decision on whether there's a conflict and whether you should recuse from that ultimately lies with you. But David pointed out something good. It is the appearance of impropriety that other individuals would be looking at. So it's not just, is there actually the conflict, is there an appearance that there is a conflict? And it raises a number of questions regarding due process proceedings of not only if you recuse, if you are advocating on another side and you recuse to go advocate and you were once the chair, it could give the appearance of impropriety and could cast a shadow over the hearing, even if you had recused, because the hearing you would be involved with, and you would be involved with in the capacity of a board member, but also as an advocate. So it is something that definitely needs to be treaded lightly. Again, it is the appearance, not just the conflict itself.
Correct.
And I would hate for anything to impede or show up at the circuit court level when it's appealed up, because we're always trying to eliminate appealable issues and make sure all actions this board takes are rock solid, so they can't be questioned on the road.
Sure. I think given both of your input, it's probably best if I respectfully decline the nomination for a board chair position. And then we may have to have further discussions just about board membership, although I feel like that will be okay. But I'm a little uncomfortable, clearly, just with the appearance of being board chair.
Yes, ma'am. And we can talk about it on a case-by-case basis. And I would tend to agree with you. I don't think it would impact your ability to serve on the board as a whole. It just may be a case-by-case specific situation in which, you need to communicate with us, and we may need to talk about recusing. And you can reach out to me about that ahead of time, because we'll normally know, what's on the agenda and what we're looking at before we meet.
Sure. And, the client assistance program has a position on the State Rehabilitation Council. So I don't believe there's an issue with membership being a part of it. I would think this should reflect that same seat position in a sense. So, okay. Yeah. Well, thank you both gentlemen for the nomination, but I feel like I do need to step aside on that.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Molly. All right. Everyone, I'm sure, understands the potential conflict there. Anybody else want to make a nomination? We will open that back up.
I will. Given that, I would like to nominate Tiffany.
Okay. Anybody else want to make a nomination? Tiffany, would you accept the nomination for chairperson?
I was gonna ask if there's anybody that felt really strong about like a stronger administrative background. I'm not declining, I'm just asking.
Well, I can't speak for the others, but speaking for myself, I just wouldn't feel comfortable being this is my first day. I really want to get acclimated to the board culture, the agency's culture. So I don't know how long Tiffany and, forgive me, Molly have been on this board, but
well, you guys are all in the same boat.
Are they new? They're new appointees to the board as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, I did not know that.
I think they do have some experience. She's a reappointment. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Tiffany is a reappointment. So she's been on the board before,
Okay.
but she just got reappointed.
Me personally, I at this point in time,
I understand. All right. Tiffany, what do you think?
I will accept the chairman nomination. We'll need a lot of assistance.
We will make sure that we do that if you're elected. All right. So
Okay.
if there's no more nominations, then we will open up for a vote. All those in favor for Tiffany Moore fulfilling the role as chairman of the Division of Services for the Blind Board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? All right, hearing none. Congratulations, Chairman Moore. Definitely appreciate you filling that role, and I know I speak for the staff. Look forward to working with you very closely to fulfilling that role, and definitely look forward to getting to know you a little bit better as we work in that role. All right, so now that we have a chairperson, we are going to open up nominations for a vice chairman. Is there any nominations for a vice chairman? And this would just fill kind of the chairperson's shoes if they were not able to serve in that capacity or they were unavailable at that time. So you would almost get like kind of a, be able to work your way into knowledge of the board, so to speak. Anybody?
Chairman is not necessarily a someone that is going to eventually accept the role of chairman.
No, not
Okay.
necessarily. Yeah, they would just fill in that capacity if you were unable to at the time.
So are we taking nominations at this time?
We are.
Can we nominate Molly?
I'll do conflict.
I would probably avoid that.
Okay.
Given what we just heard.
Then I nominate Ernie.
Yes.
Okay, I'd be willing to do it.
Ernie said that he will accept that nomination. So is there any further nominations for vice chairman? All right, hearing none, we will move to a vote. All those in favor of Dr. Huff filling the role as vice chairman signify by saying aye.
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 Any
Do you need to
opposed?
know who's saying it specifically through the online vote?
No, we can see it.
Not if it's unanimous.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's any opposition, then we'll ask for a roll call. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, congratulations, Vice Chairman Huff. Appreciate you. So congratulations to our new officers. Really appreciate you guys taking that responsibility. I know, it's not taken lightly, and I know myself and the DSP board definitely appreciate you guys filling those roles, and we are going to walk right alongside you guys to help support you in any way that we can.
Nathan, Madam Chair, the statute also indicates the election of a secretary.
Yes, that's true. I don't know that, have we had a secretary in the past? We have. All right. So now we'll open up for nominations of secretary.
Could you tell us what the secretary's role is specifically?
Michael, do you have any specific details on what
The statute does not indicate the role of the secretary. It looks like we have someone raising a hand in the back that would like to opine on that.
Dr. Lamb, you want to?
So traditionally, the secretary gets a copy of the meeting minutes first from DSP staff and just reviews them for any missing information or corrections before they go to the whole board for review and approval. So they don't have to create minutes, but they kind of oversee and make sure they get out timely and kind of provide a second edit of those minutes.
That makes sense. All right, any nominations for secretary?
Molly do that?
I would assume she could, but I would probably avoid maybe potentially having her named as a position holding on the board at all costs.
Plus, I would make a terrible secretary.
I understand. You do.
Yeah.
Okay, please do it. Okay.
All right, Miss Judy has nominated Roy to be secretary. Roy, do you accept that nomination?
I accept.
All right, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of Mr. Roy DePriest filling the role of secretary of the board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. Roy, thank you for accepting the position of secretary. Welcome. All right, now that we have that over with, we're going to move on to the director's report. So,
Okay, Nathan, right, whole piece of business on the members right before you.
yes,
Yeah. Everyone needs to fill out a statement of financial interest. We'll send you that form. It'll have to be notarized. So if you need notary services, my office can help with that. And And then it'll have to be filed with the Secretary of State's office, and we can probably help you with that too. So, but anyway, I was talking to Brandy about it, so we'll make sure we get you that.
Yeah, and that's really just to make sure that we don't have any financial conflicts of interest and such with board duties. All right, so today I'm primarily going to talk to you guys about our performance improvement plan and our specific conditions corrective action plan that we have been issued. So we've had a lot going on with DSB in the recent past months. One of those things being RSA. So you'll hear RSA get thrown around a lot. So that's the Rehabilitation Services Administration. And there are federal regulators. So they're the ones that give us our federal funds. And they also are responsible for really making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with those funds. So they monitor us, they regulate us. If they give us a finding, that's often called a corrective action plan or a CAP. So if you hear the word CAP thrown around, I know it gets a little confusing with Molly because she is CAP, the Client Assistance Program, but there's another CAP, and it's the corrective action plans that are given to us by RSA. So we were designated as a high-risk grantee by the Rehabilitation Services Administration, RSA, and that resulted in specific conditions and a corrective action plan being issued on our current 26 grant award. Okay, so we have to do certain things and meet certain criteria and correct certain findings in order for sanctions not to be placed on our current active award based on that high risk letter that was issued to us. And that was really issued to us because we had recently had multiple staff furloughs, right? I'm sure you all have heard about that. We had a reduction in force or a RIF, and what the feds were seeing is a rapid increase in which the federal award was being expended over time. Okay, so our federal award, whenever we're issued that, it has a certain amount of what's called non-federal share. So we have federal money that comes in, right? And we have to spend non-federal money or state money to match what we draw from the feds, okay? So if we're able to hit match in that first year of the grant, we're able to carry over any funds that are left on that grant into the next year, or what's called carryover year. All right, so what really RSA was seeing is they're saying, hey, like DSB had historically 8-9 months of carryover funds, and we're seeing that really dwindle to the point where you no longer have any carryover funds, that you're expending the totality of your grant in the year of issuance, okay? Which puts you at a little bit of risk, because if you don't have any carryover funds, if the government shuts down and you don't get issued a new grant award, you don't have any money to function, because you're really counting on that grant award to be issued at the time that it possibly could, which happens in October. Okay, so they put us on that high risk grantee, and we had specific conditions issued to us based on that high risk grantee notice. And what they're asking us to do is really trying to ensure fiscal responsibility in spending the grant. So they also want us to include a reduction in administrative costs, make sure that we're looking at case service cost containment measures, and those kind of things, resulting in a greater carryover to give us that buffer so we don't end up in a situation like what we were recently in. and we're working on that right now with them. We've had one monthly response already. We're required with this cap to have a monthly response back and forth with RSA to show our progress in some of these things. And that is issued on the 7th of every month now. We issued it on the 1st of May, but subsequent months, it's going to be on the 7th of every month. So one of those measures that we're really looking at implementing, and this was based on the corrective action plan, RSA is saying, hey, DSB, you need to enter into an order of selection. So what that order of selection means is that you're going to not be able to serve all eligible applicants into the program after the order of selection is instituted. So whenever a person applies for services with the Division of Services for the Blind, they are placed in one of various eligibility categories. Okay. And the order of selection says, hey, you're going to either not accept applicants to go into service from these various categories or no categories at all. And right now we're working through the state plan. Dr. Lamb will talk about some of that a little bit later on how we're editing some of that to really show the need for us to go on the order of selection. And it's primarily fiscal, right? I mean, it's all fiscal, as we don't have the funds available to us to provide services to all individuals in the state of Arkansas that would be eligible for our services. Another of those would be to reduce our administrative costs. So the RIF that happened obviously reduces our administrative costs. We're also looking at our lease agreements and trying to reduce our physical footprint. So rent, utilities, things like of that nature, trying to reduce that so we can maximize the amount of funds available to us for actual case service dollars, right? Another thing that we are looking at is a financial needs assessment being put in place. So what that would allow us to do is evaluate individuals that are getting ready to be served with utilizing DSB funds, is to evaluate their ability to contribute to their plan. Okay. So we're looking at all of those things to try to maximize the dollars that are available to our constituents, but then also to try to keep from, during order of selection, keep from all categories to be closed across the board. Because that is a very real possibility that whenever we enter into order of selection, that all categories, all eligibility categories would be closed. So what that would really look like in that instance would be that if someone applies for DSB services, it wouldn't matter what eligibility category that they end up in. And we would recognize you may be fully eligible for services. You may even be, in the eligibility category of most significantly disabled. But if all categories are closed, then they would all be put on a wait list. Now, that doesn't affect active caseloads. Okay, so if they're on active caseload by the time we enter into an order of selection, they're not held to the order of selection eligibility category restriction. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Yeah, I got a few questions.
Yes, sir.
I know that, my daughter went, she's been seen by a DSB counselor and went on furlough and just everything went blank. You didn't hear anything.
Mhm.
My understanding is that now they're shifting people to like my daughter was shifted time off or something like that. Can you explain a little bit about what happened with DSB and I guess going to a new service, and then how that affects people that's already there.
So those that are on active caseloads that
Yes.
kind of got shifted around.
Yes,
Um,
explain that.
yeah, so the reduction in force was absolutely necessary, right, to ensure that we actually had money to provide services to blind and visually impaired individuals in the state of Arkansas, right? So that RIF affected the state in various ways. Okay, so up in Northeast Arkansas, they probably felt the greatest impact to that. With right now, the West Memphis office, which traditionally housed some DSB staff, there's no staff in that office anymore, right? So what we were really doing is we had to go back in and look at our regional makeup. So whenever a client comes into to DSB, we look at where are they physically located, where is their place of residence, right? And they're put on a caseload of that local regional office. And that kind of got reduced, and we had to shift who's covering what counties, okay, internal to the DSB staff. And based on that county shift, it may have shifted what counselor is covering whatever county it may be, right? So the county that is serving Pine Bluff may have shifted, and then those cases got moved to a different counselor.
Yeah, my follow-up question on that, whenever, Sadie was shifted, for years, we gathered documentation, sent in documentation. Pine Bluff office was asking for all the stuff that we've already sent in. Is there no does DSB and Ardwell Rehabilitation Services, do they not have the same database and the same data of information? Because they were asking for things like doctor's notes and things like that. So is everybody, when they're shifting, or they have to reprove that they're disabled again? I didn't really understand that part.
No. The cases are just shifted inside the case management system. So all the documentation and everything should have migrated over with the case to the new counselor. I know it seems like on the map, like that's a big change, but in the case management system, you're just moving a case from one caseload to another caseload. Now, obviously that counselor is not going to be familiar with the case as much. So if they are looking into the case file and they're not seeing some documentation, there may be some things that they want to see if they don't have it in the case management system. So there could be some of that coming into play. But if the information is already uploaded in the case management system, they shouldn't have to require a resubmission of any documentation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The high risk information and the CAP requirements. Is that in a document that we can get access to?
Absolutely. Yes, it is. Yeah.
So I would like to make that request, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can get that to you for sure. All right, any other questions on the high risk grantee and the specific conditions?
So I was just gonna try to summarize back what I think I understood. So order of selection is basically like the term for people who are going to be waitlisted, depending on their existing status with DSB, and there will be like a protocol put in place and based on fiscal criteria as to who will come off the wait list in what order, and then the rest of reducing addressing our high risk grantee status, basically reducing other costs where we can, whether it be admin or leases or etc. Is that the summary?
Yeah, I think that's a fairly good summary. I just want to make sure that it's clear that an order of selection wouldn't affect anyone on active caseloads, right? So anyone that currently has an IPE that's receiving services from DSB right now, an order of selection wouldn't affect any of them. It would just be applicants coming into the system.
So just another clarification. So if someone was transition age and was with pre-ETS, they are a candidate for, to some extent, given other financial restrictions and requirements, for scholarship aid, if you will, or funds for college, university. But if they were not already with pre-ETS, they might be waitlisted for funding.
That's a really important designation, right? Because pre-employment transition services wouldn't be eligible for evaluation on the order. It would be whenever they became a voc rehab client. So a pre-ETS, if they're in pre-ETS status, they're not truly a voc rehab client at that point. They're receiving pre-ETS services through the vocational rehab agency, but they're not truly in like a voc rehab. They haven't received an IPE and all of those things. If they're a voc rehab client, then they would continue receiving services. So that if they're pre-ETS, but they're also a voc rehab client, they would still be eligible for services. But if they're a pre-ETS individual and then they're applying for VR services beyond that, then they would be at the order's discretion at that point.
Okay, because there are pre-ETS students that have IPEs, so those
Yes, there are.
they have been dual. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good question, Tiffany. Thank you for that. Anybody else? All right. So the next thing that we had was our performance improvement plan. So the money we spend has to be focused correctly. Even though, obviously we have limited funds at the moment, the money that we do spend needs to make sure that it's going towards competitive integrated employment outcomes, and those are quality outcomes. Okay. So we got placed on a performance improvement plan, and that is in conjunction with Arkansas Rehab Services. So this is a statewide VR plan. So ARS and DSB together failed in this instance. And this was starting in program year 24. Okay. And the way that we got put on a performance improvement plan is we dropped below 90% of overall state performance. So that's with all 5 of our performance measures. Those 5 performance measures are median earnings at quarter 2 after exit. So 6 months after they exit the program, what does their median earnings look like? It is Q2 employment rate after exit. So 6 months after they've left the program, are they still employed? Q4 employment rate, so a year after they've exited the program, are they still employed? Measurable skill gains. So if they have an educational goal, how are they progressing towards that? Are they making meaningful gains? And then credential attainment rate. So if they had an educational goal, did they actually achieve that? And is that achievement a recognized credential after they've exited the program? So those are our 5 measures. And we have a negotiated rate for each one of those. So we enter into negotiations with the feds every year to determine what is our negotiated rate of performance statewide for each one of those performance measures. And then they will, throughout the year, there could be an economic factor or a state economic situation that happens, and they will adjust potentially either up or down. They could say, hey, that was a banner year for Arkansas in, employment, employee pay, and they may bump up our negotiated rate for median earnings based on that, right? But they could also say, hey, we saw some really big, businesses close for whatever factor. It could be economic, it could be, natural disaster or something. And we feel like, hey, we're going to drop your Q4 employment rate, negotiated rate, because of those things that we saw happen in your state. So there's like an adjustment factor that happens. And then you have our actual statewide performance level. So if your actual statewide performance level then gets, you divide that by the adjusted level, and you add all of those up and average them out, and you get an overall state performance measure. And you have to be at 90% or above. And right now as a state, we're at like 83.25 or something. So we're, not quite 77% off of that. But one positive thing is you can't fall below 50% of any one specific measure. And we didn't fall below 50% of any of the measures. Yes,
I'm
Roy?
sorry. I missed one of the measures, one of the 5. Median earnings, measurable skill gains, Q1 employment, Q4 employment. What was the other one?
So it's Q2 employment, not
Q2,
Q1.
not Q1, okay.
And then it's, did you say credential attainment rate?
Was that the measurable skill gains?
No, it's separate from that one.
Okay.
So
And it's-
measurable skill gains and credential attainment rate.
Oh, that's the one I used.
So that could be like if we're sending someone to a 4-year college, we want to see that diploma at the end of that. That would be a credential. An example of a credential. Okay. So right now we're actively working with, with RSA and ARS to try to improve our performance on those 5 measurable, those 5 performance measures. Because if we fall below that 90% in 2 consecutive program years, then we get sanctions from RSA for a lack of performance. Now, program year isn't like a regular calendar year. Program year basically follows like a state fiscal year. It's just 1 year different. So it is July 1 through June 30. That would be a program year. So if you start thinking about that, like, hey, we're like neck deep in our 2nd program year right now, right? So program year 24 was last year. Program year 25 started in July of last year in 25. Well, we're coming up towards June of 26 right now. We've got like a month and a half left in the 4th quarter of our 2nd program year. So we only have a month and a half left to try to creep up above that 90%. So
And you said presently we're at 83?
That's where we were in program year 24.
24, right. Well, what about this current program?
Yeah, luckily, Dr. Land is going to talk a little bit about that. I think we've seen a lot of meaningful impact to the numbers. Some of what we saw, we believe, is like a data pool issue. We got locked out of getting wage data for a little while. And if you think about those performance measures, a lot of them are contingent on wage data. Like Q2 employment rate, how do we know that someone's employed? We see wage data, right? How is median earnings calculated? We see wage data. So Q2, Q4, and median earnings are all contingent on that wage data coming in successfully. And we saw some issues with that, but she'll be able to provide a lot more detail on where we are currently moving forward, but we're definitely seeing some improvement. and we're the little brother on the block, right? So ARS is much bigger than we are. They serve about 12,000 individuals, and we serve about 1,000. So if you think about that, you know, how much impact can we have on our overall state performance? They have a lot bigger piece of that pie. I think we can perform as well as we can perform, and we can only really make about a 1.5% difference on the overall statistic. But that doesn't mean it's not meaningful, and it doesn't mean that we don't want to perform best, because we don't want ARS performing really, really well, and we're dragging them down, and they'll be able to hold that over our heads either, right? But anybody have any questions about performance improvement plan? And like I said, Dr. Lamb is going to get into a little bit more detail about that a little bit later. All right. So hearing nothing from no questions, we will move on to our DSB leadership team reports. So at this time, I'm going to call up each one of our team members. Team members, if you guys would identify yourself, tell them a little bit about your program, and then give them your report. So we'll start out with the OIB report with Miss Amy Jackson. Amy?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to all the new board members. My name is Amy Jackson, and currently I am an area manager for the Northeast region. The last 2 years, I've operated in the role of OIB program manager. So this morning, the report I have for you is our OIB services and outcome update. Division of Services for the Blind is currently serving 286 individuals in the OIB program. For the federal fiscal year 2026, which covers the time period of October 1st, 25 until September 30, 26, DSB has received 153 new OIB referrals to date, which is about 93 less than this time in federal fiscal year 25. 267 cases have been closed successfully as goals met so far this year, and that is 203 more cases than May of 2025. DSB continues providing assessments, assistive technology devices, and on proper use of those items, daily living skills, orientation and mobility services, surgical and therapeutic related to visual disabilities, and transportation as needed to DSB consumers. The largest service request for federal fiscal year 2026 has been surgical and therapeutic treatment related to disabilities, followed by orientation and mobility services. The OIB program has significantly decreased expenditure by providing in-house services and utilizing IL aids and devices from the bulk supply that we received in 2025. To kind of give you a little bit of a comparison during that federal shutdown time and while we were awaiting our 2026 grant to be received and then monies allocated, our surgical and therapeutic for fiscal year 2025 was roughly about $62,100 expenditure. Compared to our current situation, we were down to $22,607. So I did have a fantastic OIB counselor team, worked very hard to maintain the fiscal responsibility. And after the restructure, each one of those counselors are now direct report to each specific region. So each of our region areas now have OIB as well as PREITS and VR team. So that concludes my report for this morning. If anybody has any questions for me, that would be great. If not, thank you very much.
I have a question. Oh, what is OIB?
That is the older individuals who are blind. So the people that are eligible for our program is at least 55 years of age with an independent living goal. as opposed to the VR program has the employment goals. So the OIB program operates to help increase or improve individuals' independence in their homes and communities.
And you said that eligibility age is 55?
55, without, that's no longer in the workforce. They have an independent living goal.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for that, Amy. Appreciate that. Any additional questions for Amy? All right, next, leadership report will be our business and technology, Gustavo.
Hey, hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Just quickly, I want to acknowledge that Miss Ricky over here, she used to be my Braille teacher back in the day. And guess what I have in front of me? Miss Julia has some Braille notes for myself here. Miss and also Roy, I have heard really good things about you from Miss Reinhardt back in the day. She would always compare me like, hey, you remind me of Roy. I don't know why. And Dr. Huff, thank you. I'm glad to know that you are in education and technology. So that's one of my passions too. And I can't say enough of Molly. I'm so glad to see her on the board. We can sit there in hours trying to solve the world's problems. And definitely thank you, Tiffany, for your service. But we're so glad to have you guys on the team. Our mission is to help people who are blind or visually impaired gain independence, right? We do this through business, ownership, hands-on technology, training, and making sure information is available in Braille. Here's like just a quick look at what our team is currently doing right now. So my part is three things. I oversee the vending facility program, and you'll hear it mentioned by VFP. We support right now 15 blind vendors who run their own businesses. We also currently are training 3 new vendors. It's a big interest in the last 1.5 to 2 years. I want to make sure that to let you guys know that in the last two years, we were down to 5. This program was declining a lot. And in the last 2 years, we were able to raise it up to 300%. There's more interest. And we really hope that the Randall Shepherd program continues. It's a really good opportunity for blind individuals to own their business in vending. So you guys might see when you walk into a state or federal building, the vending machines or a vending snack, that's what it is. We provide the licensing and help needed to stay successful in those businesses. We make sure every business location follows state rules. We also focus on helping our vendors stay independent. So that's a quick overview of what the vending facility program is. I also oversee the technology lab. And here, that's my passion too. I use a lot of technology. We provide one-on-one training for every person we serve. We test new tools to see which ones help our clients the best. We use AI, and this is my spill on AI. If you guys are hiding from it, it's gonna find you. So, so don't hide from AI. So we use AI right now to create our own curriculum, lessons, plans, things like that. This approach helps us save money on expensive software, maybe curriculum software, online databases, and things like that. We keep our training top-notch, even with a tighter budget. So we continue to kind of provide that service, the evaluation, recommendation, and training. So the third part of my job is the Braille production services. now I feel a little bit more secure now. I'm gonna run all the Braille through Miss Ricky over here, so so hopefully your skills are up again, Miss Ricky here. We make Braille documents whenever someone asks for them. We use I use AI. We use AI to quickly fix like messy text before we Braille it. And kind of like AI has really helped make like complicated layouts that you might see in print to be more accessible to people that read Braille. So this is just a quick summarize of what we do and what my title is and my roles is in the Division of Service for the Blind. So you guys have any questions?
I got a question.
Sure.
On your Braille services, do you actually like Braille things out for clients, like books or text and things like that, and send it to them, or is that through like the Library for the Blind?
Usually if it's if it's something for the client themselves, we will take a look and see how intensive of a Braille job it is. But if it's something that is easy to produce, we'll go ahead and do that. What has helped a lot, like I said, is like if something is more complex in print, especially you see this in a lot of like database information, that you might actually run it through AI and just ask it specifically to point out the obvious points in order to be able to emboss it in Braille. So it takes an overall look of what the information is, and it can break it down to produce it in Braille easier. Okay.
Gustavo, is the Braille program something that could be used as a potential source of revenue for those who need Brailling services?
What do you mean, Molly?
Like, for instance, if a business needs to Braille menus or things to offer as an accommodation, is that something DSB could do as a service where they could charge for that and bring in income?
Yeah, at the current thing, we do charge per page. So yeah, there's companies that ask for specific things like flyers and things like that, and we do have a fee.
Okay, does that feed right back into your Braille program to be able to build it?
Just back to DSB.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Gustavo, this is Tiffany Moore. Are you still overseeing the tech lab?
Yes.
And have there been any significant changes as to, when someone gets referred and they go through the tech lab, is all that still?
Yeah, luckily, yeah, the process has still remained the same.
Okay.
I think we've been lucky in the tech lab where we are the training center. So that is one service that we provide that doesn't cost us so much to train our clients. So we actually been getting a lot of referrals from our counselors, since sometimes that helps us save on money in training. So we do it in-house.
Yeah, it's just an important component. So I wanted to ask you about that when it was your turn.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo. Appreciate it very much. All right, so next is fairs. So Miss Teresa Bertram. I think she's online. I'm sitting.
Good morning. Hi, how are you guys? I am the director. I'm Teresa Bertram. I'm director of Fairs Radio, Arkansas Information Reading Services for the Blind. We are sanctioned by Act 74 of 2007. And we focus on quality of life and job opportunities and options, because the way I get news may be different than the way you get news. Airs.aetn.org, which is online and powered by Arkansas TV. And I know you guys have been following the drama there. I won't necessarily cover that. They average approximately 1,400 listeners each month. AETN for audio is accessible on the local Arkansas TV stations, depending on what region of the state you're in. Central Arkansas, of course, is Channel 2, and you can find us Channel 2-4 audio. And then the different regions have their different TV stations, like Channel 6 or whatever. That platform has about 100 listeners weekly. Airs Plus is our phone. So if you don't want to listen on Thursday at 4 p.m. for your favorite show, you can call up our Airs Plus number, which can be reached at 844-888-0981. I will put that in the chat and all this information as well. And that will bring you up to whatever favorite program you want to listen to. And that has approximately 2,500 listeners. Newsline, which is a service of NFB, National Federations of the Blind. Newsline is also another number you can call that plays different newspapers, but those newspapers are from around the United States, and they have about 562 listeners signed up with 100 loyal users. Like I said, you can listen to them on nfb.org. Airs is now on Alexa, so the command for that is open Airs Radio. Do not say play Airs Radio because you'll get some station in Illinois. Newsline, like I said, has 562 numbers of subscribers, 985 calls for April. And on their website, they had 2,589 web sessions. And I mentioned Newsline just because DSB does pay for that. We have had to play catch up since we weren't being updated during the furlough, but my listeners have been very kind to me and they've since picked back up and we're all good to go on that one. I've also been working closely with Sandy Pink's staff of Creative Descriptions. She does our audio describing, and she also does audio describing of local events, theaters, parades, whatever you want her to do, she will do it. And it is our agenda to push audio descriptive services at any event you actually want to go to, especially, just whatever you're interested in. It's one of those things like, the hearing impaired has sign language people, and our visually impaired need to have audio description if you want it. Our summer programming is focused on getting jobs and going to events and updates on the national conventions. I know I won't be going to it, but I'm sure I will be hearing about it. And really, we're a 24/7 reading service. We play different kinds of podcasts. I am a big Molly Hernandez fan. We play the Disability Rights podcast, and we have others as well. And if you also want to join another board, I would be glad to have you on my team. FAIRS, which is Friends of Airs. We meet 4 times a year. Our president currently is Larry Wayland, and they're there to just guide me and help me out and tell me what they want to do, and I am all for it. So please, if you're interested, let me know, let Larry know, and we will be glad to add you to our board. And if that's really all I have to have on my agenda at the moment, I'm Teresa Bertram. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Did she say she was tied with PBS? Okay, I heard on the radio they were about $240-something thousand short of what they needed. So evidently this was put into effect by Act 74/2007. So if PBS goes down, how does it affect this program? Does she know or have any idea?
It's a good question.
We'll have to find another home.
Okay.
I hope I do not. And from the cooler talk around, as they will more than likely continue on with PBS, that official verdict. So don't hold me to that. But they are at $1.9 million. They need 2.1 by June to resubscribe to PBS. If they do not resubscribe to PBS, which once again, I'm pretty sure they will, but don't hold me to that. They will be making local programming, which they've already started. And there's been more activity going on now that I've seen in a very long time. So it's a lot of good stuff going on. So I don't know. I don't think they will close their doors, even if they don't resubscribe to PBS. Again, don't hold me to that, but they're super close to their goal. But anyway, should they have a demise, I will just have to find a new home.
Teresa? All right.
Can I say something? This is Larry Wayland.
Yes, Mr. Larry.
Yeah, Teresa, when you say you need to find a new home, you don't mean that you're gonna find a new job. You mean that you'll just you just mean that you're gonna have to find another place to do your service, continue your
yes.
services from, right? Okay. I just
Yes.
wanted everybody to understand that.
It's an important distinction.
Thank you.
All right. Well, team, I will say we are rapidly encroaching on the 12 o'clock hour, so we will need to expedite these next few reports if that's okay. Our next one is field services with Miss Raven Lewis.
Yes, so my name is Raven Lewis and I am the field administrator here at DSB. Just a little background, I've been here for about a year now. And here we go. So we have continued to handle various demands and persistent operational changes. Despite any challenges, as a team, we strive to deliver innovative problem solving and quality service. We do aim to ensure to reach out to every consumer on the caseloads, assess the needs, establish goals, and recognize wraparound services. Currently, just due to some of the changes we've had, we are trying to implement some pre-ed trainings and some MSG trainings, just because we've had to kind of shrink and kind of move some things around and shift some things around. And so we are working on some trainings for some of our staff. Real quick, for February, February, and March. In January, DSB closed the rehabilitation plans of 13 successful employee individuals who are blind and severely visually impaired, compared to 27 closures at the same time last year. This brings the number of individuals successfully employed year to date to 52 for the federal fiscal year, compared to 49 this same time last year. Individuals closed in the current month are now employed in positions such as tax preparers, meter readers, utilities, and registered nurses. In February, of course, that was one of our big furlough months. Rehabilitation plans, 0 successfully closed employed individuals who were blind or severely visually impaired, compared to 27 closures at the same time last year. This brings the numbers individuals successfully employed year to date to 52 federal fiscal year, compared to 49 at the same time last year. And of course, the individuals in the current month are still with tax preparers, meter readers, utilities, and registered nurses as their jobs. In March, DSB closed the rehabilitation plans also to 0 successfully employed individuals who are blind or severely visually impaired, compared to the 27 closures this time last year. This brings the severely numbered individuals successfully employed year to date to also 52 for the federal fiscal year. Just real quick, we do have a field activity coming up that we're kind of excited about. Arkansas Workforce Connections, Division of Services for the Blind, and the Arkansas School for the Deaf and Blind are collaborating this year to bring our Jumpstart. So we are excited about that. Just due to some operational changes, Jumpstart this year will be a 1-week in-person program. We're still providing the same paid work experiences, educational resources, independent living skills to students who are blind and or individually impaired. We will also have a graduation. We're excited about that. Just due to some changes, our graduation will be held here at the Commerce Building in the cafeteria. So we are working to make sure that this is a success for the students. You know, due to our operational changes, I think that the students should still be able to enjoy Jumpstart at least for a week and experience those same activities. And then we're planning to kind of bring some people in and just kind of be as cost efficient as we possibly can, just due to the circumstances. And in closing, the field services staff will continue to demonstrate dedication, professionalism, and a commitment to providing quality service to our clients, because our clients are first. Our efforts to remain focused on maintaining effective communication, timely service delivery, and addressing clients' need in a responsive manner is our first and foremost. And this concludes the field administration.
Thank you, Raven. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Raven? Hearing none, definitely can't express my thanks enough for our staff out in the field. I know we have managers and things online right now, and those are your boots on the ground folks, right? Those are the people that are actually interacting on a day-to-day basis with our clients and the ones that are developing plans and setting up services and supports around them. So just can't express my appreciation of them enough. And thank you, Raven, for your report. Next is going to be a little deviation from our agenda. And actually, I probably should have brought this up whenever we were approving the agenda because I failed to put Ms. Cheryl Harris, our QA manager, quality assurance manager, on the agenda, and that I will take ownership of myself. It was just a complete oversight. We'd actually discussed her presenting, just forgot to make my fingers type it out on the agenda. But Ms. Cheryl, you have your report.
Yes, sir. Good morning. My name is Cheryl Harris. I'm the quality assurance manager for the Business Services for the Blind. Our quality assurance unit is made up of two positions, which is myself and the DSP auditor, Jeffrey Scott C. Together, we conduct comprehensive case files across all program areas. Our focus is to ensure that each case meets agency policy as well as the state and federal regulatory requirements. In addition to the case reviews, our unit also manages the customer satisfaction surveys and departmental surveys. We design, distribute, and track these surveys through the Qualtrics platform. Looking ahead to program year 2026-2027, our priorities include expanding the depth of our measurable skill gains and potential attainment reviews to ensure stronger alignment with federal reporting standards. We also plan to enhance fiscal audits related to consumer authorizations and payments, with a particular focus on ensuring that company benefits and expenditures accurately align with everyone's employment plan. These efforts will strengthen accountability, maintain program integrity, and reinforce our commitment to delivering high-quality services across all DSP programs. I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Cheryl QA?
If there are no questions, then this ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director.
Yeah. Routine, just as she said, looking at those measurable skill gains, making sure that the counselors are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the case management system so we can effectively track what's actually happening, right? Because if we're doing the work, we want to certainly get credit for it in our performance measures. So really appreciate her and her team doing that. So next is our Deputy Director report, Dr. Lamb. I know she's going to talk about in some more detail some of the things that we spoke about a little bit earlier. All right, Dr. Lamb.
Thank you. So just kind of a quick overview, and then I'll jump into a PowerPoint with some great data for you all about those details. So since returning from furlough, we've been working hard to make sure that we're meeting our expectations and deadlines regarding the special conditions corrective action plan and our performance improvement plan. As Nathan mentioned, for special conditions, we are providing monthly updates on number of consumers we're serving and their case status, and all of our cost saving methods. We're working on rate setting methodology just to ensure that we are finding the best possible rates for services, and working with vendors to review rates and set those, and determine anywhere we can save money. We have also drafted a financial participation needs assessment, and we've submitted that to RSA for their review. And what that would mean is we would look at a consumer's income and using the formula in that based on the 200% of the federal poverty level, determine how much they may be able to participate monthly in the costs of their plan on services that are eligible for cost. There are some exempt services such as assessment for eligibility, rehab technology, and things of that nature. And use that model. Now, it's not officially approved, so we may get some feedback and have to tweak the model, but we are working through that with RSA so that we can get that implemented as a partial cost savings. Then we are also working with RSA to complete the order selection documentation and justifications in our state plan. And I know we'll go over that later in the agenda when we talk about the state plan, but we did submit that to RSA last Friday and they sent back a couple of comments yesterday and we have updated based on those comments and are going to resubmit. So hopefully to hear more soon. Under the performance improvement plan, our counselors have been diligently reviewing every case to determine if all of the measurable skill gains and credentials have been entered correctly. During this process, we were able to identify cases where participants were incorrectly still listed as in a training program when they should have been removed from completing that program already. And so in doing so, we significantly reduced the number in our denominator getting into that formula, which meant that roughly every participant we could now counts about twice as much as they did 6 months ago, which is great for our percentages. We also, as Nathan mentioned, we had lost access to the wage system, but we have that back. And so we were able to rerun all of the wages we should have turned in then and resubmitted those to RSA to hopefully see those numbers improve. And I do have those actual numbers for you. And so we are really excited about that change. We also were able to confirm instead of 1 credential, 6. And so that moved us from 10% to 60% on our credential rate, which is above our target. So we were really excited about that one as well. I mean, Kobe, if you could pull up the PowerPoint for everybody. Kind of walk you through.
This one.
Yes. Thank you. And you can go on to the next one. So this is our program and financial report that we typically share with the board at every quarterly meeting. It is calculated using an old RSA report called the RSA-2. But because that report is still in our system, it runs case service expenditures and number of individuals receiving those services. So it's a great way to kind of just see where the money is going on the case service side. So that report runs on the federal fiscal year, so the October through present day. So this one is October 1, 2025 through present day. It will include expenditures that are paying some of the past due bills from when we went out on furlough. So the numbers are more than the current grant awards numbers alone. So there are some old grant award numbers and new mixed in the total for the year, but just to give you an idea. You can go to the next slide. So this is the expenses by service category. So our highest category is types of training services at $2,217,805.86. That's followed closely by other services, which includes all pre-employment transition services, and our 15% requirement for that is approximately $900,000, and that is at $1,157,930. So you can see with a large bulk of that is obviously pre-ed services. We spent $16,716 on assessment, primarily for eligibility. We also have spent $379,343 on maintenance and $305,240 on rehab technology. Those are our largest expenditures. And Kobe, you go to the next one. And so when you break down the types of training services, the highest one is four-year college at $578,618.40. And then the next would be miscellaneous at $518,010. And again, that includes some of our pre-ed training services. So that is where that comes in. Vocational training comes in at $310,000 and our disability skills training at $380,000. And so we have seen an increase recently in graduate college as we work on helping people advance in their careers. But those were, you can go to the next one. When you break down the job services category, so $71,418.47 was spent on job placement services, where we ask a vendor to help place a client in a job specifically. And then $46,125 on the job supports. And then $2,787 in just job search. You can go to the next one. So this slide is how many people fall into each of those categories. So the total number is more than we have participants, just so people know, because you can get a service obviously in multiple categories, but it's how many individuals got each type of service. So for diagnosis and treatment, that was 277 as our largest category. Rehab technology at 108 individuals was next. For four-year college, there are 65 individuals recorded as receiving four-year college services. Then other is 92, and again, with that including pre-eds, that is a large percentage of that. So the next thing is, this relates directly to our performance improvement plan. These are our performance measures, and Brandy does great by sending this out in an accessible format to everybody after, so you'll have it as a frame of reference. But our 5 measures, so measurable skill gains, our target is 59%. For credential attainment, which is a little tricky because it's cases that closed in calendar year 2024 and earned a credential while they were on our caseload or immediately after leaving it. The target for that is 37.5%. The employment rate second quarter after exit, which is anybody who exited 6 months or more ago, so that would be last program year, 65%. And then employment rate fourth quarter, so that's people who exited during the calendar year of 2024, because they have to have been out for a year. Our rate is 65 as well there. Retention with the same employer is the measure that we don't actually usually get till the end of the year because you have to have all your 4th year in, but we calculate that based on how many of our people who are employed fourth quarter were with the same employer as they were in second quarter. And so we use that, and there is not a target rate on that at this time. That was just approved at the federal level, so we're still waiting to see how that plays out. Median wages second quarter after exit is all the people from second quarter. What is the median wage for that group? And the target is $6,870. So breaking those down individually. So for program year 24, which is the one that got us on a PIP, we recorded a 2.1% measurable skill gain rate when the target of 55.6%. So obviously that was not good. As a state, it was 43.8%. In December, before the formal performance improvement plan was in place and right before DSB went out, we had reported 21 new skill gains and finalizing that out. So for 66 people, but I'm sorry, 66, update right after December. And we ran it in January. So in January, when we ran our update, right before we turned everything back in, we had moved it to 66 from 21. When we resubmitted in May to RSA our update with all the work the counselors have done, we had moved to 96 out of 163 individuals. So a rate of 58.9%, and our target is 59. So that's awesome news for us. And a big chunk of that is, like I said, we went from 243 individuals in our denominator to 163 just by closing out old goals that somebody had forgotten to go back and hit. They finished. And so that obviously significantly improves how that 69 impacts our score. For credentials, so again, these are credentials they earned while on the caseload, but after they have closed, we were able to go in and verify that all the boxes were checked and the credential was earned on 6 out of the 10 credentials that were possible, which gave us a rate of 60%, and our target was 37.5, so we like that. As opposed to last year when we had only confirmed 1 for a rate of 10%, and the state had hit 22.4%. So that's our little challenge to ARS, I think, Nathan, right there. We got way above on that one. But we're very happy to see that improvement.
They're not going to be able to touch us at 60%.
It helps when your numbers are smaller sometimes. So for in the employment rate. So for second quarter last year, we were able, for program year 24, we were able to confirm 65% of 65 participants still working, which was a 49.3%. And the goal was 64. Fourth quarter, we were able to confirm 29. We wanted a rate of 63%. We were at 16.1. But our retention rate was 35.4% on those we confirmed, which is great. For 2025, after rerunning everything, and there are, because we still have 1 quarter to go, There are wages we can still pull in, so these numbers could potentially still go up on these. Especially because we are expecting hopefully to find a few more people working in the next quarter. In December, because we were locked out, we had only been able to report 2 people still working that we could verify. As of May, when we resubmitted, we had upped that number to 95, which got us to 37.11% of the target of 65. And then for fourth quarter, out of the 233 possible in December, we had only been able to confirm 23 of those. We have now confirmed 99 of those for 42.5%. Fourth quarter is the biggest potential change because some of them have not hit their 1-year date till the end of June. So when we run that in July, we hope to be able to pull all those people who've been working a year as of the end of June and add them. Hopefully we will find wage data and be able to add them in there. Obviously this measure is tricky because if they're not in the UI system, it is hard to find that verification. For the median wages for DSB, this is the one measure that we have consistently outscored the state rate on. So in program year 24 at exit, our typical wage was $16 an hour. For the second quarter after exit, ours was $8,423.64 with a target goal of $6,800. The state rate was actually $7,114, so the state actually exceeded there as a group. For 25, we are sitting at $17.20 an hour for wages at exit, with our median wage at $8,239.43, which is obviously above the $6,870. Just kind of an overview of where the program is at. So in program year 23, DSB had closed 115 cases employed. We had received 604 referrals to the VR system and taken 395 applications. We had also closed 3 potentially eligible cases, goals met, received 43 potentially eligible referrals, and done 9 intakes for potentially eligible clients. In 24, we had a 40% increase in closures at 155. Then we have received 584 referrals and taken 367 applications. We had closed 7 cases, goals met for potentially eligible, received 85 potentially eligible referrals, and conducted 21 potentially eligible intakes. So far for program year 25, keeping in mind that for 2.5 months, staff were out of the office, and obviously there was no movement during those 2 months. We have completed 132 successful VR closures, which is great considering we were down 2 months. We've received 432 VR referrals so far, and taken 264 VR applications. They have closed 27 potentially eligible cases, goals met, and received 50 potentially eligible referrals, and conducted 5 potentially eligible intakes. For our OIB program, just to kind of give you an overview, in federal fiscal year, so that's October through September for OIB program, they had closed in 23, they had closed 239 cases and received 485 referrals and taken 308 applications. For 24, they had closed 92 cases, and a lot of that was transition to one group and making sure we were resolving cases. Referrals was 409, and applications was 290. For this federal fiscal year, they have closed 267 cases for OIB successfully, taken 168 referrals, and 108 applications. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that was a little fast, but you will get copies of all that data as well.
Dr. Lamb, I have a question going back to your expenditures.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know this is Molly, for everyone that's not online. Did I hear correctly that maintenance expenditures were higher than that of training?
They were just behind training.
Okay.
Depends on if you break down the specific training categories, it is higher than some of those categories, but not higher than the training services altogether.
Okay. But is part of the closeness in those numbers, is that attributed to paying the back obligations?
So I would say there's probably some impact there. However, that has been pretty typical for us over the last couple of years. Some of that is obviously if individuals are in training, not at home, then there may be maintenance costs for them to attend training, right? So there's obviously a
Sure.
correlation in who's using that service. And then maintenance is just kind of expensive, to be honest.
Sure.
Will you define maintenance?
Absolutely. So maintenance is support for typical expenses that you would get that might be normal expenses, but they have been increased or they're above because you're participating in VR. So for example, if you were attending a training program at WSB and you don't live in the Little Rock area, so you need to come stay in Little Rock while you're there, that would be maintenance. It can also be uniforms and things like that nature for people starting employment, and some things like that. The most common is housing for training though.
All right, thank you. Will we get a fully accessible
Yes.
printout of your entire report?
Brandy sends it out in an accessible table for you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I got a question. What's our total budget for DSB?
Well, that is one of the things we are working through with RSA, but our grant award is approximately 5.5 million.
In the ballpark.
I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I think I do actually the state plan slide. I'll find it for you. But and then we have our state general revenue. To meet our maintenance of effort, we need about just over 1.7 to around 1.8. And that would be our total budget. This expenses also will include some back payments so that are coming off the 25 award. So it may be higher than that amount because we're using, obviously we have to pay those back bills with the 25 grant or money not tied to this grant because of the dates of service. So it's a little, there's more delayed payments than we would normally have because of the furlough.
So a lot of people, vendors probably weren't paid for last year because I know they had a shutdown at WSB. So you're paying all of those with the funds that you got now, right?
Not exact. It depends on when the bill was. So anything prior to October 1st, we have to pay with non-26 money.
Okay.
So we are using other funds for that. We used 25 funds until they were fully expended, and then we're using other funds. Anything from October 1st forward would come out of the federal 26 grant award or its state match.
Okay.
And our goal is to get all those back bills paid as quickly as we can, but obviously we're trying to make sure we also have money for current services. So it's kind of a splitting the budget game.
Yep.
And then one last question. I looked at some of our past budgets. I mean, we're getting like in 2019 was getting like 78% from the Fed, and then 2022 he's getting 68.4% from the Fed. I know in this last fiscal session, I don't know that any more money was allocated to DSB that I could see. I don't know if that's the case, but are we looking at, is there any other funding sources that we can get in the future besides Fed and state to help service the people that are blind and visually impaired in the state?
So we do also use program income, which primarily comes from what's called Social Security cost reimbursement, which is where if someone comes off of receiving disability benefits because they're now employed in a high enough wage, Social Security will reimburse us for costs of their case. So we do use that, and we are looking at ways to increase that revenue, and partnering with ARS for some software that's supposed to help increase that revenue. There are some other sources that we're looking into that they're also considered program income, but they're not as predictable or common, that we're looking to see if those are available to help add to our non-federal money. But the guaranteed money would be as guaranteed as it gets. The federal and the state match for that.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Megan. You can stay right there. Because you are up next as well. So we are beyond 12 o'clock right now, but we do have to review the state plan. Now, this is a 2-year update, so we didn't have to create a bunch of new goals. We just had to kind of provide a programmatic update and then maybe some changes. So Megan has been working diligently on that. Appreciate her, and she's gonna kind of go through that with you. And this is a voting item. So we will, at the end of her report, vote that we, as a board, have reviewed the state plan. Okay, thank you. All right, Megan.
Okay. Thank you. So as Nathan said, we're gonna kind of talk about what updates we put in the state plan for the 2-year update, and go to the next one. So the first one's kind of small. So our comprehensive statewide needs assessment. We are in our 3rd year, as Cheryl mentioned, the Qualtrics contract for our consumer satisfaction survey. This has increased our response rate for OIB and VR consumer response surveys. So we have a better idea of their needs and how cases are serving them, which has been wonderful. We are due to conduct a new needs assessment for the next state plan, which will be in a year and a half approximately, and then it'll start being due. Also, as part of and I already heard talk about the merger. So as part of the merger, if the 2 agencies merge, we will need a joint comprehensive needs assessment, which reaches out to all of the constituents and consumers, vendors, and those impacted by services from both agencies to determine what needs are being met and what needs aren't, and it should help drive our goals and needs for the next 4-year plan. So the annual estimates for DSB, this is a section in there we did update because the previous update was the earlier years. So in 2024, we served a total of 1,365 participants. Of those, 675 or 49.45% were minorities. And the annual estimate does specifically call out that breakdown for us to make sure that we are reaching underserved populations. For 25, we served 1,180 participants, and of those 577 or 48.9 were minorities. So our estimate for DSB based on historical records is approximately 1,300 participants a year, and we expect approximately 520 of those to be minorities. At the time of writing the state plan, which was end of December-ish, we had 507 OIB open cases, 1,000 VR cases, and 91 potentially eligible cases open. So under our goals, priorities, and strategies, one of the big additions was placed that DSB, for both DSB and ARS, we are looking at the merger of the 2 VR agencies into one agency and expect legislation in 2027 towards that effect. And that we will be working with RSA to make sure we are following the correct procedures and processes for that merger so that there is no impact to client services. As part of our cost containment, as well as in preparation to be more in line with the rest of workforce, we did move to a regional management focus. You heard Amy mentioned that she used to cover just OIB and now she's covering a region. So what that means is instead of having a transition manager, an OIB manager, and then regional VR managers, those managers now supervise an OIB counselor, counselors who cover transition, and counselors who work VR, and just to have a regional structure. We also looked at our counties to try to put them a little more in line where possible with the workforce boards and kind of shift that around. Which is where some clients received obviously new counselors, and we're working hard to try to make that as seamless as possible. Then for business engagement, that is one of the positions that was lost in the reduction in force, but Workforce Connections is focusing on a new alignment for business engagement that we will be part of. One thing is our business engagement efforts as an agency will be focused more on job placement, as opposed to employer outreach in terms of educating employers. And that is really more in our counselors' wheelhouse, right? They know their clients, they know what our clients can do and what they need to be successful. So they are much more equipped to have that conversation than to try to explain the bigger business need from us, right? That's not what they got in this business to do. We also have access to Arkansas Launch, and I'll be working with ability to pull jobs from Arkansas Job Link to help our consumers find jobs. And in the past, obviously Launch did not exist, and our access to Job Link, we hope to grow that access working with Workforce to have better information from that for our clients. Arkansas Industry Connect will be focusing more on the employer engagement side, the traditional business engagement. And they will be providing those resources and reaching to us to provide expertise where needed on how we can assist businesses, but as opposed to having DSB, ARS, workforce, everybody calling the same employer and setting up 15 meetings. They'll focus on that and bring in the resources that they need. One of our goals in the state plan is to reduce the number of consumers who are determined eligible who exit without employment, and to reach more successful closures. Our goal is to get up to 200. As I mentioned, we went from 115 in 23 to 155 in 2024. At the time of that, we were at 77, but we are now at 132. Obviously, given the 2-month furlough, we may not hit 200, but we certainly are at least still staying on track to see an increase and keep growing that number. Then our other goal we had significant work on was the supported employment goal, which we want to increase the number of successful supported employment cases that we have. We worked through the technical assistance centers at Virginia Commonwealth University. We did training in December of 24 for our staff. We instituted monthly supported employment lunch and learns with the counselors. We did a training in April of 2024 to recruit more supported employment vendors. And we had 32 people come in from various vendors for training and support. And at the time of the state plan, we had 42 plans that were identified as being clients who may benefit from supported employment and working with counselors towards those specialized services and hopefully successful outcomes. So under that goals, we also evaluate 24-25. So one of the things we did, not tied directly to one goal, but was that we were able to bring our case management system up into the version supported by the vendors so that we were no longer behind, which helps improve tracking of performance measures and outcomes, hopefully allows us to more effectively support counselors and in recording their data. And we do believe that was part of the challenge with the 2024 numbers. And then, of course, bringing it up to date also gets us in compliance and prepared for the state's transition from ACES to S/4HANA this summer. So we are as prepared as we can be for that at this point. We will wait and see for go live. And we're obviously working to provide updated training for our staff on those measures. I know Raven mentioned measurable skill gains. We want to continue to provide support and training on that. So the big change too is our justification for the order of selection. I put the whole language in here so that when this gets sent to you, you will have that exact language. But what it is that, as most of you are aware, by November of 25, we had fully expended and obligated the federal fiscal year 25 grant award, which resulted in us having no carryover funds during the government shutdown. And we were unable to access those funds. In July of 25, one of the things, obviously, one of the changes in our budget was the state pay plan changes, which obviously increased the administrative costs in our budget. We also have seen a significant increase in cost of services over the last 3 federal fiscal years, college, diagnosis and treatment, maintenance. And we've seen an increase in participants, which is great, but does come with higher expenses. So in conducting our review, we would need to serve at the average rate that we have been serving, $4,468,890 in case service funds. And our current grant award is only $5,436,042. So that would only leave $967,000 from the federal money for anything outside of case service. We also get the 1.7 for case service. And for state money, my apologies. And so that would, our fiscal budget for non-case service is estimated at $3,166,048 for a year. And so as you can see, those two numbers together are more than our award. And so that does leave us with an estimated shortfall to be able to fully serve all eligible participants. We are going to continue to look at cost containment measures that we've already discussed. And we are going to continue to work to try to find additional funds. And obviously, as those are available, we will, of course, use them for case service. So that is our justification. Under the order, we will have the following 3 priority categories. Our priority 1 is most significantly disabled, and that's any individual whose impairment has a functional limitation of 4 or more limitations. And those functional limitations are defined at the federal level, but they are mobility, communication, self-care, self-direction, interpersonal skills, work tolerance, or work skills. And then, of course, they needed to be interested in employment and require services to obtain employment. Category 2 would be our more significant disability category, and that's anyone who has 3 functional limitations on their service. And then our priority 3 is considered significant disability, and that would be anyone who has 1 or 2 functional limitations. Anyone who has no functional limitations will be considered not significantly disabled and therefore not eligible for services. And our goal obviously is to get back to a day when all categories are open. But as Nathan mentioned, we are expecting that at least at the very beginning, we will probably close all categories to serve the clients that we currently have and then move forward from there. The final section under order, I believe, is the goals for serving our order. So obviously our goal is to serve as many people as possible. We will continue to serve everyone who currently has an IPE. The order of selection only impacts those who do not yet have an IPE. We will continue to review all of our cost containments. We will not restrict services to someone just because they've become employed or any of those natures. Like, that's not the goal of an order of selection. We will maintain our waiting list by priority category, and it is essentially a first come, first served by priority category. So there's, we're not trying to do anything different with that. That is standard. So if you applied first and that category gets people pulled in, then you would be the first one pulled in off that list. And that is work done with the director, myself, and the field administrator to review those resources as cases close or additional funds come in. And then we would move through the categories. Obviously, you would pull from priority 1 first. Those are the most significant disability, and down through the list based on available funding and size of the wait list. We do have an exception for job retention under order of selection. So someone who is at risk of losing their employment can jump the line, so to speak, but it is only for those services that directly impact them losing their employment. So if they needed JAWS access to maintain their job, we could provide that. But then if they also wanted training for a promotion, they would go back to the wait list for those additional services. And obviously that helps both the individual and the agency, because we don't want people to lose their jobs if that can prevent it. The annual estimates that we place in the state plan that kind of outline this. So we are estimating under category 1 that 610 people in a federal fiscal year will be eligible for services under category 1. We currently have 516 people in category 1 on the caseload. So we believe that if all categories are closed, that would leave 94 people in that category not receiving services. The estimated cost for those cases is approximately $1,565,062.20. And that is based on our available budget. And then for priority category 2, we're estimating 226 individuals to be eligible. We currently have 167 on the caseload, which would leave 59. And we expect that cost to be $481,557.60. And then for priority category 3, we estimate 294 individuals with 239 currently on the caseload. So that would leave 55 on the wait list at $361,168.20. And all of that is based on proportion of the caseload that they are at to kind of estimate funds. Of course, we know that some cases are more expensive than others, and that is obviously just estimates. For supported employment, we pulled 69 individuals have supported employment on their plan or we estimated 69 based on past data, currently have 63. If all of them went all the way through supported employment services, that would be an additional $504,000 in supported employment services. So that's where we got with that. And we estimated 6 of them would be on a wait list because we have 63 already. So our performance measures, that is also an edit in the state plan that we just talked about. RSA did agree with both agencies. I believe that came through official, right, Nathan? Okay, I think that came through while we were out. So 60 to maintain the goals for the last 2 years. So we did not get an increase in our expected performance level, which is great since we were struggling to meet that. So second quarter after exit for 2026, which would start July 1st, our goal would be 64%. 2027, it would be 65%. For our fourth quarter after exit goal, we would be looking at 63% for next year and 65% for the following. For median earnings, we would be looking at 6,800 for 26 and 6,870 for 27. Credential attainment would be 35.5 for next year and 36 for the following. And our measurable skill gain rate would be 57.5, with the following year being 58. And so those would be the targets that we need to make sure our performance is reaching to avoid ending up back on a performance improvement plan or any sanctions. I'm happy to answer questions, and then I think there's a vote. So.
Yep. Anybody have any questions regarding the state plan adjustments or what's included in that?
Yeah, I got a question.
Doctor, sorry, go ahead. This is Josh. I had a question about the Social Security reimbursement. Do we know when that's typically expected, or the amount or anything to be applied?
It varies significantly based on who has been successfully closed and their income. We get a quarterly report from Social Security that we use to help make sure we're claiming everybody that's a possible claim. But then it can take a little while for them to review our claim and approve it. So there's not like we get that at this time every year. It could be every week, it could be every month, just depending on how many cases there are.
It comes through sporadically throughout the year.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact amount that we had last year, but we can look that
I
up.
believe it was around 115.
Yeah. It's not as much as I think you would generally expect, and that's one of the things that we're really hoping that this software contract in conjunction with ARS is really going to help us maximize the amount of reimbursement that we're getting for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Huff?
Yes, I know you had a reduction in force. Were any of those people like hired back, or did you use that as like savings to put back into the budget? How did that work out?
None of those people were hired back by the Division of Services for the Blind. We did have some of the individuals that were RIF from DSB come on with our sister agency over at Arkansas Rehabilitation Services. And then some of them landed at other various agencies throughout state government. But for DSB, I mean, yes, it was specifically a cost-saving measure that we could maximize the amount of dollars that would be dedicated to client services. Because quite honestly, if you look at our fiscal forecast, which I'm planning on having a fiscal representative here to speak to you guys specifically for the next board meeting, and we can look at some of those numbers. We would essentially have nearly $0 for case service right now. So yeah, and primarily it was a cost saving measure. Any other questions for Dr. Lamb? All right, thank you for that. And we do need to vote on that. And this is the last item really on our agenda. So I think we've kind of had discussion over the state plan. I would like to entertain a motion that the state plan is reviewed by the board as it was just presented. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
All right, Dr. Huff has made the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Roy, thank you for the second. all in favor of approving, approving that the plan has been reviewed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion has carried and the state plan has officially been reviewed. I appreciate that. So our next scheduled meeting is going to be Friday, June 12th, 2026 at 10 a.m. It's going to be the same. We're going to have it here in the Commerce Building in person for those that want to attend in person. We'll also have a Zoom link for virtual attendees, and it'll be live stream on Arcan again. Can I get a vote of adjournment or a motion of adjournment?
A motion to
All right,
adjourn.
Dr. Huff, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Roy, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm assuming there's none opposed. So this meeting is officially adjourned at 12:27 p.m. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much.
We normally meet every 3 months. Is that what the deal is?
Yes, it's usually quarterly. It was